Now, I know you always hear the headlines. The Democrat Party is having a civil war. But I am not joking with you. The Democrat Party is having a civil war that has left Black America totally outside of the tent and politically homeless. You heard it here first. Other people will try to jump on this narrative, but you heard it here first. Black America is politically homeless as the Democrat Party begins a civil war. Now, yesterday, no, first, welcome to the room. Welcome here with me. Grab your coffee, your tea, your iced coffee, whatever. It's Sunday. We're chilling. We're going to kick back and relax, and we're going to cover everything you need to know about why Black America is politically homeless and really what Black America needs to do in America, period, not just Black America, needs to do to navigate through this tricky situation. So yesterday, we talked about the Chicago budget, where the Democrat Socialist mayor of Chicago is at war with his overwhelmingly Democrat city council over the budget of Chicago. Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to implement socialist taxation that is already running major corporations who employ lots of people out of the city. While the city council, they want to use alternative taxes, that taxes that aren't weaponized specifically against corporations, to bring in the revenue they need to deal with their budget shortfall. Either way, you got Democrats. They're never going to say, let's manage the funds better. They're never going to say, let's just do a better job and reduce costs or reduce spending, right? Their answer to everything is tax, 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 tax. Now they're at war over who they're going to tax. That's the biggest issue. The Democrat socialists are like, it's obvious. The billionaire corporations make billions of dollars. We're going to totally ignore the fact that they pay billions of dollars in taxes, and we're just going to raise taxes on them with zero consideration of the fact that they actually need their money for research, development, hiring to run their company. We're just going to bleed them as much as possible to the point where they either leave town or go out of business. And what they're choosing to do is they're choosing to leave town as opposed to going out of business. Now, the regular Democrats, what we might call moderate Democrats, the type of people who sit on Chicago City Council, they're like, look, we're not going to do that because we actually want to have a city to sit on the city council for. They don't want to destroy the city. They want to be able to live and exist in America and have their city and have their seats. The Democrat Socialists don't like this. They look at them as being too moderate. They basically look at them as being Republicans or conservatives, and they're not having it. This is a huge fracture that is growing within the party. The far left, Democrat Socialist radicals, as I call them, who literally want to bring communism into America and create a bigger government that just basically takes over the means of production. They believe that a bigger government can manage and deal with people's everyday issues better than private corporations. So we covered how that's fracturing Chicago, and it has the Black residents of Chicago politically homeless because they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. They absolutely refuse to vote Republican. But now the very party that they're voting for has turned on them, has abandoned them. Their party has abandoned them and is now operating in service of two entities: radical socialist extremists and illegal criminal alien migrants who can't even vote. And we have the clip to prove it.
How you doing, Mayor Brandon Johnson? Okay, well, I don't know, because you're not looking well. You're not looking well at all. You look like somebody that's under a lot of pressure. And you're under a lot of pressure because you've misled a lot of people. You made people think that they got rights and power and authority that they don't have. And now you got to face the reality of that, right? See, the evidence of that is the mere fact that this morning, while we're sitting here waiting for you to come in here, some immigrant with a head wrap on came and had the audacity to tell me, Danny, and Zoe that we couldn't sit there. Somebody who don't even have the right to be in this country going to tell us where we can sit. That's due to your leadership. That's due to you filling people's head with a lot of bunch of nonsense. So let's cut through the chase. We told you, I know for a fact that I did.
Now, Miss Jackson is one of the few African-American Black people or Democrats. She's one of the few Democrats who's actually going to go to a Democrat politician, mayor, or anything else and tell them to their face, you screwed us over. You sold us out. Most people are not engaged with politics in that way or that closely, so they just won't say anything. And that's called the silent majority. And if you know anything about politics, the silent majority is probably the most crucial element of any electorate, of any base that you need to win over to maintain power in any political theater. They're going to silently just vote against you. And she may be the loudest and most vocal when it comes to the situation they're in Chicago, which I believe directly reflects the national situation when it comes to African Americans and their relationship with the Democrat Party. She may be the most vocal, but she's definitely not the only one who feels the way she feels.
Yeah. That we was coming for these seats. That still stands, sir. All you got to do is look at how the Republican Party is moving. You don't see that redistricting? That's getting some of them seats for Republicans? You don't see that? You don't see how you then had to close your mouth, sir, about all this white supremacy and Trump stuff because he holding back on that money. You don't have no money because all the money that you had, you gave it to these illegal immigrants. And now the feds ain't giving you no more money. And while you still sitting there looking like you don't know what I'm talking about that $70 billion that the Republicans on Pennsylvania Avenue just passed in that partisan bill to fund ICE for the next 3 years. We're tired of what you're doing. We're tired of looking at that ugly Obama Center that has displaced everybody over there. And you're proving to the Black community that you could care less. In fact, you're proving to Chicago that you could care less. And so at that poll, we're going to show you that we could care less about you.
Yes, and it's definitely happening. But it's not only happening in Chicago, and Miss Jackson is not the only person who is seeing that there is a serious divide within the Democrat Party, which is known as the Big Tent Party. Everyone's welcome. Well, you can welcome everybody as long as the people that you welcome into the tent have the same basic understanding of what is needed. Socialists do not believe in America. The very idea of America goes against everything socialism stands for. And the very idea of socialism goes against everything America stands for. We don't believe in socialism. We believe in charity. We believe in goodwill. We believe in loving our neighbor. We don't believe in big government. A lot of people look at me and say, you know what? Brandon is just a Trump shill. Brandon just loves Republicans. Brandon is just a conservative talking head. That's not true. Brandon hates big government. Brandon hates someone having more control over my money than I do. Brandon really agrees with the majority of what you think or what you believe. There's just a couple areas where the inconsistency in the solutions of these people, right? The ideas of their ideology go against the fundamental reality of the situation we are in. You don't like the establishment. I also hate the establishment. You don't like the government. I also have a big issue with a lot of things that are going on in government. Here's the difference between me and you, and let me make myself big so I can make this clear for anybody who doesn't understand my position. You don't like the government and believe the government is doing too much and they're impacting you in a negative way. I also believe that. But your solution to that, your solution to the government giving corporations tax breaks, corporate welfare, your solution to the government spending too much on the military budget when they could be using that money to help other people, your solution to that is to grow the government, make the government even bigger, and give the government more of our money in hopes that the government will redistribute the money more fairly. If you already understand that the government is wasting your money and spending your money on things that you do not support, why would you support a political strategy that gives the government more power and gives the government more power over your money? So where we conflict is this. I believe to stop the government from doing all the things that you say the government are doing that hurts you, I believe the solution to that is to shrink the government, make the government smaller, make the government less powerful, give the government less influence in our everyday lives, right? And if the government is smaller, it doesn't have the resources or the reach to come out and have a real impact on what people want to do individually. The states should have more power within the state than the federal government. See, we believe in the same thing. We have a problem with the same things. The solution is where we differ. How in the world do you believe that implementing socialism into our economy is going to make things more affordable for you? Look at any country that lived under socialism. People were still in poverty. They were actually even poorer because there were no rich people or middle class people who could say, you know what, I got a little bit extra money. I need some extra help. I'll give you a job and you can help your family. The government was picking the winners and losers. The government was deciding, no, everyone's going to be on an even playing field. So the richest person in the country has to be on the same level as the poorest person in the country. And they usually met somewhere at the bottom. Go do the research if you don't believe me. Now, here's the problem. You have a bunch of people within the Democrat Party now who have bought into socialism because socialism sounds very appealing to people who don't know history, to people who really don't understand economics. And it really sounds appealing to people who don't have a family to take care of. That's why you see that it's gaining a lot of traction among young people and who have no children and no real responsibility. They're still in college, etc. And old people whose children have left home. They're living comfortably on a pension or retirement, and they're just trying to help. They're just trying to make things easier for their children and the generations that are coming after them. Here's the problem. All those roads lead to the same issues where you have people who will basically say, hey, I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I want the government to take care of me. You're killing incentive, right? And this reality is beginning to manifest itself within the Democrat Party. People within the Democrat Party are realizing, hey, these people might call themselves Democratic Socialists of America, but really we don't agree with these people on a fundamental level. We really don't agree with them when it comes to economics. We really don't agree with them when it comes to politics. We really don't agree with them when it comes to the candidates that are being chosen. So now, before they could get out the gate good as a party, before they could even set the tin up to get under it, they are fracturing. And this was made very evident in an episode of the Political War Room with James Carville. He's a political strategist, hardcore Democrat, always on CNN, always on MSNBC, giving his opinion as to what the Democrats should do to gain power. And James Carville, on their latest episode that aired on Thursday, he just came straight out and said what, let's be real, what everybody who basically is not a Democrat has been thinking. Because we're sitting here waiting for the truth to come out. And we've been anticipating the civil war that was going to erupt among the Democrat Party. Check this out.
And this is
well, in the age of Trump, it might have been.
But whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
But the Democratic Party, I never had a problem being in the same coalition with AOC or Jayapal, but for that matter, Ilhan Omar. I mean, they're probably what I would have considered, out there in the same coalition I am. But this new crop that's coming in, this is entirely different. This is not the same thing. This is some kind of a, and I think people might be voting for it and hadn't thought about it. I don't know what they're doing, but I got to tell you, I don't see this doing anything. Going back, that Colorado one is Denver, so it's pretty urban Democratic district, but that's not the case here. That this is the new trend, and it's a very disturbing trend. And it's I think people are just looking for a quick solution to just do anything that they can to stop the pain they're going through. And I got news for you. There are no quick solutions. I go back to, I don't know why we don't embrace the Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Moreno, bust the cap on Social Security. That's dream of a lifetime sitting right in front of us. But somehow or another, no one wants to pick up on it.
Well, there is an agenda to embrace that is, is far from tepid. It may seem tepid to that woman in Colorado or that woman in Manhattan, but it's not tepid. And when people talk about, look, I hear all these Democratic socialists say the overwhelming majority of Americans are for Medicare for all. Well, if you say Medicare for all, yeah, Elizabeth Warren got savaged in 2019. It almost was the beginning of the end of her campaign. Because basically people say, I don't want to lose my health insurance. And you ought to build on the Affordable Health Care Act. You ought to do away with those Medicaid cuts. And maybe you build and have a public option. Maybe you build towards Medicare for all someday. But we ain't ready for it yet.
These people are not into building. Okay?
Yeah.
Now listen very carefully, because a lot of you are never going to take the time to watch these shows. So you're never going to really understand what the real sentiment of the people who are the foundational members of the Democrat Party are saying. And I know ain't too many black people watching this, so they're going to go along with the sound bites and the TikTok and the 30-second clip, and they're going to base their whole political opinion on that. Listen to what these two hardcore Democrats for decades and decades, the people who the politicians go to and say, help me win this election. I need to know what the people are thinking. I need to know what the voters are thinking. Listen to what they just said. Listen to Al, the guy on the left. He just said that Democrats, the core members, don't want universal health care. He literally told you Elizabeth Warren almost lost her re-election campaign because she kept pushing universal health care, and her own voters started to turn on her until she walked it back. But you still running around universal health care, universal health care. You're voting for a party, and you're voting within a party where the vast majority of people in your party do not want that. There is a fringe group in your party that leans more towards socialism that will continue to throw out that talking point because they really either know the numbers and know you don't know the numbers, or they're just dumb and don't realize that there's no way this country could ever afford universal health care, being that we have almost 400 million people who live here. Now listen, they just told you that. So when I say, hey, I don't believe in universal health care, you'll say, Brandon's just saying that because he's a Republican. That's not the case. The reality is there are moderate Democrats, the vast majority of Democrats in your party who agree with me on universal health care. They agree with me on it is better to have private health care, single payer, right? Health care than it is to have universal health care. Because when you have private health care, single payer, right? You have more control over what is done with as far as your health is concerned. The government is not deciding, hey, you need this treatment. You don't need that treatment. We're going to give you this treatment option versus this treatment option. You have control. So as much as the Black community wants freedom to do whatever they want to do when they want to do it, it's so crazy to me how they jump on the bandwagon of ideology that works against that. It actually goes in direct contrast to that, because the socialist ideology is you're going to relinquish control so that the government can have more control, right? And no socialist can deny that. No socialist can deny that. But listen to James Carville. What did he say? What was his last remark, which really just took the house down? And I'm going to play it again just so you guys can hear what he says.
And you ought to build on the Affordable Health Care Act. You ought to do away with those Medicaid cuts. And maybe you build and have a public option. Maybe you build towards Medicare for all someday, but we ain't ready for it yet.
These people are not into building. Okay, but understand that.
These people are not into building. These Democrat socialists are not trying to build anything. They are trying to tear down America, right? So that they can implement socialism. Their goal is communism. The leader of the Democrat Socialists of America, the head of their group, he said time and time and time again, our goal is total socialism. But because the Democrats saw that they can get votes easy by echoing the talking points of Democrat Socialists of America and basically communists, they started echoing their talking points, which made the Democrat Socialists believe, yo, they're on our side. And so the Democrat Socialists started voting for them. But when they realized that the regular run-of-the-mill Democrats were not on board with their extreme agenda, what did they do? They started primarying them and moving to replace them. And now they are actually winning Democrat seats in Democrat districts. And that might sound good to you. Yay, we're winning. Democrat socialists. The guys who are going to give us free stuff are winning, because that's the way you're thinking about it, especially if you're Black. You're just thinking about free, whether something's free or whether it costs. And you're in your mind saying the guys who are giving us free stuff are winning. Yay for us. Here's the problem. The guys who are saying they're going to give you free stuff do not have the ability to give you free stuff because they don't have the money. And they actually have to get the money that they need to get elected from the moderate Democrats like James Carville and Al here, who do not agree with the radical side of their movement. They don't agree. You just had two Democrats tell you, we are not ready for universal health care. It's not me. It's not a conservative. It's not Greg Foreman. It's not Devore Darkins. It's not Fox News. You have just had two of the most prominent Democrat strategists, analysts, and advisors say to you, we are not ready for universal health care. And these democratic socialists are not about building. They are only about tearing things down so they can replace them with socialism.
They're into anger. You know, we have let the fucking Al Hunts and James Carvilles and Obamas and Clintons and Pelosi's and the whole goddamn freak show just get run over. And meanwhile, wealth inequality just skyrockets, opportunity plummets. And we got to stand up and we got to do something, God damn it. And the same people that are telling us to be incremental and build on things are the same people that got us in this. Okay, that's what they would say.
Right.
And now, you're only getting me started on.
So he's basically telling you, these are just, he's telling you what me and people like me have been telling you for years now. These are just emotional people who really have no plan or agenda beyond getting elected. If you sat Andrea Ocasio-Cortez down and asked her what is her agenda to end wealth inequality, what is her agenda to end the affordability crisis, she's not going to have a plan. Her idea is let's keep taxing the rich. And if you ask her, well, what are you going to do if the rich move their business out of America because they don't want to be taxed, right? They don't want to be destroyed with taxes. You know what she's going to say? I bet you could not guess what she's going to say. I bet you could not guess what she would say. I'm going to give y'all a second. I'm going to give y'all 30 seconds to give me an answer. If Andrea Ocasio-Cortez was elected president and you asked her, what is she going to do to end the affordability crisis? And she said, we're going to tax the rich. And the rich said, well, we're going to just leave and operate our business outside of America, right? So you can't destroy us with taxes. What do you think Andrea Ocasio-Cortez's solution would be? Tell me. I know y'all in here. Tell me what you think her solution would be. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, right? Because I'm teaching today. I'm teaching you. I'm going a little deeper into my mind and how my mind works so you can understand me, because I think a lot of my audience doesn't understand me. Her solution would be tariffs, just like what Trump is doing. How do you keep the rich from how do you keep the rich people in the corporations' money, right, in the country if they decide that they're going to leave the country to do business because you are trying to destroy them with taxes? Tariffs. You have to charge them to bring the products back into the country and sell it, right? That would be exactly what they're going against Trump doing. But it would have to be done if you implemented Democrat socialism, where basically you're saying we're just going to raise taxes on the rich every time we don't meet budget. Every time we don't meet our budget, we're just going to implement new taxes on the rich. You would literally have to put tariffs in. It's all circular. Everything the Democrat socialists are presenting to you, it ends with tariffs. It ends with the government forcing corporations to pay, or if those corporations leave, charging them tariffs to bring their product back into the country to sell it. But people aren't even thinking that far ahead. Just like Carville said, these people aren't trying to build anything. These people are trying to destroy institutions that they do not understand. And the people who do understand the institutions, they will pretend like they want to do away with these institutions. They'll pretend like they want to destroy America so that they can stay in power and continue to trick these people into voting for them. Understand that. But that's just two strategists who now are waking up to the danger of Democrat socialism and are making it clear. James Carville said outright, he said, look, this is a big tent party, but I just can't be under the tent. with the socialists. Now, who's the next person? Who's the next person? The next person who's jumping ship or who's waking up to this is Jamie Harrison, former Democratic chair, right? He made a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, and made it very clear. He said, I say this with no ill will or animosity. If you hate the Democratic Party, then please do not run for our nomination. Do not use our resources. Do not rely on our voters. Do not use our infrastructure. Don't ask Democrats to invest their time, money, and energy in your campaign. Focus on building the party you actually support. Political parties aren't perfect, but they're built by millions of people who knock doors, make calls, organize meetings, and fight for the values they believe in. If you don't believe in the party, then don't ask its members to carry you across the finish line. 100%. 100%. Understand that. This guy, a former DNC chair, is like, the Democrat socialists are using us. They use all of our resources, but when it comes time for them to play ball or to compromise, which is necessary in politics, they don't want to do that. They don't want to compromise. They want what they want when they want it. They're like children. They're like angry children. And you know what children have in common with these people? Children also don't build anything because children have parents and they know their parents will take care of them and be there to meet their need. The Democrat Socialists of America are a group of people who believe that if they give the government enough power and enough power over other people's money, that the government will operate like a parent to them and take care of all their needs so they can do whatever it is they want to do, right? Understand that. Now, Jamie Harrison is not the only person. We have Carville, we have Al, we have Jamie Harrison, right? These are big, heavy hitters in the Democrat Party who are coming out like, hey, this Democratic Socialist BS, yeah, this ain't it. This has to end. But now, former Chicago mayor, Rahm Emanuel, he is seeing what Democratic socialism is doing to his city, the city that he was formerly the mayor of. And he's seeing how Brandon Johnson is literally destroying the city of Chicago piece by piece, right? He sees how Brandon Johnson, the Democratic socialist, is refusing to implement the city council approved taxes, right? Because they refused to sign off on the taxes he wanted to implement because they were horrible and they drove major corporations out of the city. So to get back at them, to spite them, because he doesn't see himself as a Democrat, really. He sees himself as a socialist. He sees himself as a communist who needs to not only destroy the Republican Party, he needs to also destroy the Democrat Party and America so that they can create the socialist, communist utopia here. These people are true believers. They look at this like a religion. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about common sense. They don't have the ability to look at these things objectively. They are totally indoctrinated. So Rahm Emanuel comes out, and wouldn't you know, he's echoing the same sentiment as James Carville, Jamie Harrison, and Al about the Democrat Socialists. He's saying the same exact thing they're saying. And guess what? He's saying the same exact thing I'm saying. So the more you think that Brandon's just a conservative shill, no, what you will find is the people with common sense within the Democrat Party, they are actually saying the same thing conservative Republicans are saying about the Democrat Socialists of America.
There's just some that I can't be in the same tent with.
So what do you think, Ram? Do you agree with him?
Well, look, I just laid out my view about this whole program, which is you got to flip red to blue, not blue to cobalt blue. And there is a difference. There are candidates out there, specifically like in New York City, who don't like America. I happen to think being an American means you win the lottery ticket of life. There are challenges in America that it's not living up to its potential, as outlined here on the 250-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, where America falls short, but you always struggle for that better. There are people in the Democratic Socialist Party who literally do not like America, think it is a bad country. They don't have any identity. And that is not the Democratic Party that I'm a part of.
Now, if I literally say the same thing he says, these people hate America. They don't want America to thrive. They might want to thrive, but they don't want to thrive under the banner of America. They are against everything that this country stands for. He's saying it himself. But if I say it, shut up, Brandon, you stupid, you don't know nothing. People are saying that who literally voted for Rahm Emanuel. See, when you argue from the angle of common sense like I do, you're always going to have people who agree with you on both sides, because common sense is not something that is just unique to conservatives. But what I'm telling black folks, and what I'm saying about black folks and saying they're homeless, is because politicians, Democrats with common sense, like Rahm Emanuel, those are the Democrats that black people voted for. Understand that. That is the Democrat Party that black people bought into. But now that party is slowly but surely being overtaken by radical far left communists. And guess what? Those radical far left communists, they may use the typical talking points to gain your trust, but when it comes down to it, they couldn't care less about racism. They couldn't care less about a Nazi. Hell, they couldn't even care less about Zionism, because they are willing to use whatever they have to take over. And where do we learn this? We learned this with Graham Plattner, the guy who actively participated in racist online groups for decades, where they disparaged and talked bad about black people every single day. This is a proven fact. You know what the Democrat Socialists said? Just hold your nose and still vote for them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we got to do as long as we get rid of Trump. Let me tell you, even Sunny Holston said that on The View. And she's a person who claims to care about black people. Just like black folks had the blue no matter who agenda, the Democrat Socialists are like Democrat Socialists no matter who. It don't matter if you're a racist, a Nazi, or anything else. They are 100% hell-bent on replacing the Democrat Party of America with the Democrat Socialist Party of America. But if you're too stupid to do your due diligence, if you're too lazy to do your research, you will vote for these people thinking that they're on your side. But the reality is they're on their own side, and their side wants to destroy America, even the things you like about America. Let's listen to Ron.
There's just some that I can't be in the same.
Oh, shoot that one off.
So what do you think, Ram? Do you
Socialist Party who literally do not like America, who literally always struggle for that better. There are people in the Democratic Socialist Party who literally do not like America, think it is a bad country. They don't have any identity. And that is not the Democratic Party that I'm a part of.
Now, Rahm Emanuel, while I don't agree with 99.9 of the stuff of the things that he believes in, I agree with him. When he says we need to stop just giving money to Israel by the boatloads anytime they want, just throwing them, mountains of cash. Now, Rahm Emanuel is not saying we need to totally stop funding Israel. Don't believe that. But he makes a very good point when he says, hey, we need to look a bit closer at the money that we're giving to Israel. And we need to seriously reduce the amount of money that we're giving to Israel. I think every single American can agree on that. No country's entire no country's entire military budget should be provided by another country. The same way we went at NATO and was like, yo, we ain't going to keep giving you all this money. That's the same way we need to go at Israel. Hey, bro, the piggy bank is, the ATM is closed. So you better figure out what you're going to do. You better make peace where you got to make peace, or you better go to war where you need to go to war, because the tap is about to be cut off. What American wouldn't agree with that? What American wouldn't agree with that? At the same time, two things can be true. I could believe we need to stop just mindlessly and just, all this ridiculous money that we're allocating to Israel. I believe it needs to stop. But I also believe we needed to address the situation with Iran. Two things can be true, because I don't think Iran is good, and I don't think Israel is good. I think there are groups of people who just been fighting for the longest, and they're never going to stop as long as they can afford it. If you ask me, we should cut money off for both of them. And then we should just totally bankrupt both the countries so they can't. If it was up to me, they'd be out there fighting with swords, because they wouldn't be able to even buy a bullet or a gun to fight with over there. If it was up to me, I would put a total blockade on all ammunition and everything. Nothing goes there. Any country caught shipping things there, sanctions. But in the meantime, the objective is to find the things that we agree on. And one thing both parties are starting to agree on is that these Democrat socialists are bad for America, and that they're preying on the gullibility of people and the serious lack of information that most people suffer from. And they're using that as like a stepping stone to get into places, into positions that they should have never been in. And I'm telling you, as I tell you today, the Democrat Party, there's a war coming for them. There's a war coming. You call yourself a Democrat, you have a war coming. And that civil war will be the war between the party moderates and the Democrat socialists, aka the communists. That war is coming. It's already here. And the one group that's going to get left behind, as we witness with what's going on in Chicago, is Black America. Because both sides are going to choose, both sides are going to fall back on their base, right? And Black America, for some reason, we've fallen in love with this idea of getting free stuff. That's why the reparations movement spread like wildfire. And that's why you see a lot of Black Democrats, they are now becoming aligned with the Democrat socialists, because the Democrat socialists understand that as long as you keep telling Black people you're gonna give them free stuff, they will support you. That's just something that's hardwired into our DNA for some reason. Oh, they talking about free stuff. Ain't no way we gonna be able to vote for them regular Democrats, because they ain't talking about free stuff, right? But the reality is the free stuff is never gonna be as valuable or on the level of the stuff that you work for. It's never gonna be like that. And when they say free stuff, what they really mean is no stuff. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Free stuff is no stuff. What you will have is a bunch of free time because you won't have a job. Now, let me point out something else that I noticed. Do you notice that at the same time, people are screaming about affordability, right? If people are screaming, we don't have enough to make ends meet and all this stuff. Do you notice that unemployment is at under 5%? What does that mean? You're saying you can't afford anything, but unemployment is at under 5%. That means there's a lot of jobs out here. That means there's a lot of jobs out here. If you really have a problem with affordability, there are plenty of jobs out here where you could pick up a second job, go in, put in 4 hours or 8 hours on the weekend, make some extra money, and help yourself, meet the requirements that are of your living expenses. But no one's talking about that. No one's talking about that. Everyone is just saying, I can't afford anything. And they're all looking to the government to fix their problems. Listen, nobody's going to fix your problems. And it damn sure ain't going to be the government. The government is incredibly inefficient when it comes to specific issues, right? They're horrible. They're horrible at it. They're absolutely horrible at it. But to believe that the government is going to come through and solve all your problems, you're just a fool. We should be reducing the government so the government can't take as much, so that the government will take less from us and we'll have more of our money to do what we want to do with it. And that's going to solve a lot of your problems. If you look at your paycheck, right? You get FICA, NICA, and SICA. I got a paycheck last week. They took down over $500 out of my paycheck. Do you know what I can do with an extra $500 a month? What could you do with the extra $500 a month? But see, there are people who think life is going to improve if I allow the government to take even more than the $500 a month that they're taking out of my check every week. I mean, the $500 per paycheck that they're taking from you every week. How does your life improve with you having less of what you work for? That's like saying, man, you're going to get more full if we take away half the food on your plate. Anybody will look at that and say, you're a damn idiot. How am I going to get more full if you take away half the food on my plate? But there are people who can be tricked. There are people who don't have the ability to think things through. And these are the people the Democrat socialists are taking advantage of. And I'm sorry to say this, and I don't take pride in saying it, but in my community is overrun with people who absolutely refuse to think things through. Now let's get to this, because these Democrat socialists, they have released a party platform. They're telling you what's on their agenda. Let's see what it says. Let's see what it says.
Who is representing people of America on the Hill? They want to eliminate the U.S. Senate. They want to replace the president and the U.S. Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by a subordinate to Congress. They want amnesty for all immigrants. And they want to defund the Department of War.
This is according to a source inside the DSA.
Yeah, but the main point is that there was this.
Wait, this is who you're voting for. Zohran Mamdani, Katie Wilson, Brandon Johnson. Listen to what the people who they answer to want to do to this country. They want to eliminate the Senate. That automatically destroys representation for the smaller states who don't have the large populations. 2, they want to replace the president and the Supreme Court. We won't have a president or a Supreme Court, right? So if they want, if they want their son to be able to play on your daughter's basketball team, or on your daughter's college team, so now women have no place in sports because their spots are all taken by men who are wearing skirts and wigs, you won't even be able to do anything about it. If the police brutalize you, you won't be able to do anything about it because they want to remove the Supreme Court and the president. You know what that means, right? If you understand the way your government works, which I have to admit, a lot of people don't, but if you understand the way your government works, right? We have something called checks and balances. You have 3 branches of government. The executive branch, that is the president. You have the judicial branch, that is the Supreme Court. And you have the legislative branch, that is Congress. How do you maintain a system of checks and balances if you remove 2 of the 3 entities whose entire job it is to create a balance? See what I'm saying? See these dumbass ideas that the people y'all voting for believe they're actually going to be able to implement? And if they do implement them, it's actually going to destroy your country? Look at this. What's the next one, y'all? You black, right? So I know black people don't believe in eliminating the Senate, right? And I also know that black people don't believe in getting rid of the presidency and getting rid of the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has gave black people some major wins. Let's get that straight. The Supreme Court has given black people some major wins in this country. So I know we don't agree with eliminating that, right? We actually was just celebrating because the first black woman ever was on the Supreme Court. I know black people are not on board with eliminating the Supreme Court or the presidency. We was just celebrating, hey, we just had a president. So we gonna eliminate the presidency after we didn't only have one black president. We gonna eliminate the Supreme Court when we only didn't have like 3 black people on the Supreme Court total, and just now got our first black woman. I know black people don't agree with that. Here's the third thing: amnesty for all immigrants. I know black folks don't agree with that. Here's the next one: defunding the Department of War, meaning all your military is going to be totally defunded. They're going to take away the entire budget for your military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all that gone. I know black people don't agree with that. I know Americans don't agree with that. So help me understand. Why are black people voting for these Democrat socialists? Oh yeah, for free bus rides. Think about that. Free bus rides. That's why you're doing this. For free bus rides. Oh, so I can get a freeze on the rent. You're going to destroy your whole country for a couple of perks that are temporary. Because I want to let you know, Zohran Mamdani only froze rent on certain buildings in the city of New York. He didn't freeze rent on every building. And I think they said it was something like 30% of the buildings. So the other 70% is business as usual. But how many voters voted for Zohran just on this idea of, oh, free rent, free rent freeze, oh, a free bus ride, oh, a government-run grocery store. He's literally throwing you peanuts, and it's like a wolf. It's like a wolf saying, "Hey, let me in the pen with the sheep, and I'll do some tricks for you. If you tell me to sit, I'll sit. If you tell me to stay, I'll stay. If you tell me to roll over, I'll roll over for you. But once I roll over and sit and do everything you say, you got to open up that pen with the sheep in it and let me go inside." This is what Democrat socialists are doing. They are looking at small-minded people and saying, these people will do whatever you want them to do for peanuts. So let's go ahead and offer them the peanuts, get the votes, and once we gain power, we say, screw them, and we replace them with immigrants. You know they want to replace you with illegal immigrants because that's one of the first things they want to do. amnesty for all immigrants. You know what that does? That creates a new block of voters who will always vote for the Democratic Socialists because they know the minute they don't vote for the Democrat Socialists, the other parties will gain power and they will most likely start deporting them. They know what they're doing. But what I'm telling you is you are politically homeless now because you sold out the party you supported based on the promise of free bus rides. And once that party is gone, you will no longer be on board with this party. You won't agree with what they want to do. And you know you can't vote Republican according to Nigalations 3:16. You can never vote Republican no matter what they offer you, right? So you are politically homeless. The party that you have attached your identity to as Black people in America is literally being taken over from within by communist, socialist radicals. Let's check out this video.
Executive and judiciary chosen by a subordinate to Congress. They want amnesty for all immigrants, and they want to defund the Department of War.
This is according to a source inside the DSA.
Yeah, but the main point is that there was this massive talking point that this is just liberal states and
Turning tide.
Liberal districts where this is happening. I'm sorry. This is happening all across the country. And they have some platforms that a lot of young people and a lot of people that have grievances with the rich are going with. It's anti-American, it's anti-Jew, it's anti-Israel, it's anti the foundation of how this country was built. They believe that our country is deeply flawed, and they're winning. So you got to have a Republican Party that speaks truth to power on all of it. They don't even want the police. They don't want any borders. One candidate said, I don't care if they committed a crime and they're a legal immigrant. You still should not be able to deport them. So we're not talking about reasonable people, but you got to make the case because these young people are showing up to vote. And the college educated, I know there were some headlines about us talking about the other day, but these college educated people have been indoctrinated and they're not rational. They don't understand the markets. They don't understand any of that. They understand this new world order and they're voting for this as well. So we got to start focusing back on the college campuses again.
And some are framing this as sort of a east to west wave. It's not. It is a tide rising all around us. These candidates have been erupting, have been fomenting all across the country. You're absolutely right. Starting with college campuses, city councils, mayors, district attorneys, etc. So they are all around you. They are all around us, and it is abjectly frightening.
Okay, so listen to what's going on. They're making it very clear, right? These people are radicals. They're all over the place and they are gaining momentum because there are a lot of young people who have grievances with the rich and the federal government. What I want you to understand, the whole reparations movement, we knew it was going to fail because we couldn't even hammer out a number, right? But would you believe me when if I told you that the entire reparations movement was nothing but a psyop whose total goal was to prepare Black people to join the ranks of radical socialism? Would you believe me if I told you that? They've been conditioning you for almost 10 years, right? With this promise or this hope of getting all this free money. Our ancestors worked for it, so we deserve it. Billions of dollars, we'll never have to work again. Okay, socialism failed. What is the next ideological step for someone who, for the past decade, has based their entire existence on this idea that they deserve to get money for the work of their ancestors and basically never should have to work again? What is the next ideological step? Socialism. Free buses, free this, free that, free healthcare, because that's the next best thing. The only thing that beat free money, the only thing that adds up to free money is free stuff. Hey, I can't give you $100, but I could give you a free microwave. I can't give you $20,000, but I could give you a free car. See what I'm saying? This was all a psyop. Black people were mentally conditioned for 10 years to become easily susceptible to the lies of radical communism. We're gonna give you free stuff. Hey guys, I got all my day ones in here. 10 Dodge. Let me tell you guys what we're doing. So I don't know. I want to make this clear. So as you guys have seen, I've been killing with the views. 78,000, 54,000 views. I can get 30,000 views at any point. But I want to build up the numbers on my day one regular viewers. All those people are new viewers, and they're here. They're in here, and they're not going anywhere. But my analytics told me in order to bring back my old audience that I had before, I have to stream in this format only, and I have to cover these specific kinds of topics. And because y'all my kinfolk, y'all my day ones, I do want you guys to get the information that I'm out here trying to give. So I'm biting the bullet on my own revenue just to kind of bring some of my old viewers back into the fold so they could see what we're doing now. That's why we sitting here at 36 viewers. If you've been watching my past streams, I've been having 400, 300, 500, right? But I'm basically trying to reintroduce the channel to the old crew. Y'all, so when Turney Tyke said that the notifications aren't coming, that's because I really haven't been streaming in this format. And so YouTube throws out notifications based on the format where I'm streaming, right? And the viewers that watch in that format. So if you watch this format and I go live, YouTube will throw you out a notification. Now, if I do dual format for the up and down format and the side format, YouTube is going to look at where the most viewers are coming from and where the most subscribers are coming from. And it's going to prioritize the subscribers who watch in that format. That's why a lot of you haven't received notifications. But because people came in, people stayed in, YouTube said, hey, this is high value content. Let's throw the notification out to more people who've watched him in the past in this format. That this algorithm is crazy, but I feel like I've learned it and I understand it and I have more control over, what's going on in this channel. What I will ask you to do, since I am making a huge sacrifice on revenue, can you help us reach our contribution goal? 5 super chats of $5 or more. That's it. $5 holler. The goal is pinned to the top of the chat. I just ask that you help me out in that way. I'm biting the bullet on a Sunday because I'm not going to lie. Those big ass streams are very lucrative, but I do want my day one people in here, the people I'm able to have a real conversation with, people who think like me, understand, what's going on. I don't want my older audience to just be totally alienated, in favor of a new audience. Y'all come on in here. I know this stuff concerns y'all. And I agree with you guys on a lot. You guys think, oh, he just loves Israel. I don't love it. I don't even care about Israel. I don't. But if I see a situation and I have to pick a side, I'm just going to pick a side based on that particular situation. I don't think the United States should just Israel, but I also don't believe Israel is the cause of all black people's problems. I think socialism is more of a threat right now than Israel. Because here's the thing. People will say, oh, AIPAC. Guys, AIPAC candidates don't win every election. If AIPAC was this big, oh my God, they would win every election. Zohran Mamdani wouldn't have won. Graham Plattner wouldn't have been blowing out the lady he was running against, who is a AIPAC shill. So I want a conversation that's based on objectivity and reality. No one is controlling everything, but there are people who control a lot. But no one can have, hey, AIPAC is control everything. Why don't they win every time? Why don't they win every time? Because they're not the end all be all. They're not Thanos. There are a lot of people who still have a lot of power in this country, and you're one of them. But I'll tell you one thing. If we go towards socialism, all because Israel is evil, you're going to lose a lot more than an election. Understand that. So I just want y'all to see where I'm coming from, because you have some crazy people in here. You have some crazy people who believe some crazy things, who people are voting for, like this lady.
Now, people often ask me what I think of the state of the Democratic Party.
Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier. She's running for Congress in New York's 13th district. She has said a number of things in now deleted posts between 2018 and 2022 on social media, including that she wants to abolish prisons and police.
Are prisons obsolete?
What purpose do they serve?
Right.
I think we have to ask ourselves that, which is that, I think a lot of people who defend the carceral state, they defend the idea of it and the way it makes them feel.
The Democratic Party must change.
Hey, these people are wild. We need to abolish all prisons. Come on, man. These people aren't even realistic. These people aren't even realistic. And you have every Democrat who's really a communist, right? You have the media and all these different entities. They're celebrating these people
After his endorsement.
but they won't do any deep dives. They won't tell you anything about who these people really are, right? Right? Let's watch this before we get out of here, because I got to get out of here. But let's check this out.
In November of 2023, a junior associate at the law firm Sidley Austin wrote an open letter titled Dear U.S. Law Firms. Her law firm had just signed its own letter written to the deans of American law schools criticizing protests on college campuses against Israel's war in Gaza. This junior associate's letter excoriates her employer and dozens of other law firms for chilling free speech. She was fired for refusing to take her letter down. So this junior associate lawyer left New York, returned home to Denver, where she started working as a barista. Then she entered a PhD program in public policy and then decided to run for office. And on Tuesday, in the Democratic primary, she defeated her opponent, a 15-term incumbent who'd been in Congress longer than this former junior law associate has been alive. In the process, she's rocked the political establishment. Joining me now is Melat Kiros, the Democratic nominee for the House of Representatives in Colorado's 1st District. Congratulations. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You've probably seen or heard all of the analysis. Everybody's talking about the race and what it means. So I want to ask you, how should Democrats, particularly Democrats in the House, be processing your win over their colleague on Tuesday?
I think this election was a referendum on the party and their ability to actually listen to the issues that the voters care most about. The voters of this district heard the case that we made about why affordability is so out of reach right now, why corruption is on the rise right now, and the role that our party needs to be playing in making sure that we are leading by example to make sure that we get money out of our politics so that we can finally get to the work of passing things like Medicare for all, universal child care, housing first, and putting an arms embargo on Israel.
Now, listen to the talking points. You can go to a Democrat stronghold right now and say Medicare for all, universal child care, housing for all, and stop giving money to Israel, and you can get elected. She's a lawyer. She knows that all that's bullshit. She knows that. She's a lawyer. She knows that. She's an Ethiopian. They're not going to do that in Ethiopia. Why doesn't she take that to Ethiopia first? And then they do it. show us how successful it is, and then bring it over here. Ethiopia is a fine country. It's a strong country, right? She knows it's BS, but she knows that there are dumb ass white folks and black folks and desperate illegal Hispanic immigrants and their families who will vote for her because she's saying the things that they associate with, free stuff. Free. She's running on a platform of 3 free things and then hatred of Israel. Think about that. I'm going to give you all this free stuff, which she's never going to give it to you. But just hearing free, universal, for all, these words get people wet. And so they say, I'm going to vote for that person, even though I know she ain't never going to do it. Let me ask you a simple question. If this stuff is possible, why isn't Katie Wilson, another Democrat socialist, implementing it in Seattle? She's crying on stage right now because every corporation is leaving her city to go to Bellevue, which is a city right across the water from her, because her ridiculous policies have totally killed their ability to do business. People see it or don't see it, or they're not paying attention, and then vote for it in their own state. Now they're doing it in Denver. It's already failing Seattle. It's already failing Chicago. It's already failing New York. But let's do it here because it'll work this time. And let me tell you this. Now they don't have the excuse of America is continuously bombing Cuba, so that's why they couldn't do socialism. America was continuously attacking Russia, so that's why they couldn't do socialism. America wasn't attacking Russia. America never attacked communist China. America never attacked North Korea after the Korean War ended. America never attacked Cuba. It failed because it doesn't work. That's why when you try to do it in cities, it fails because it's a failing policy.
So one of the things you talk about a lot is PAC money. You've said that you would not vote for a House Speaker who takes corporate PAC money. So I'm going down the list. You actually have to go a fair distance down Democratic leadership before you find somebody who doesn't take corporate PAC money. So on a very practical level, tell me how that works. You get elected, you go to Congress in January, and you're going to vote on a speaker. Tell me how this plays out with you and others like you who have toppled incumbents.
Well, I intend to make my case. I think what we showed here in Denver is that not only do you not need to take corporate PAC money in order to win, that you can actually dominate with the support of grassroots people-powered infrastructure. We had over 6,500 volunteers knocking on over 115,000 doors and making over 500,000 phone calls all across our district. And because of their incredible work, we were able to win with a 13-point margin. What we are showing right now is that not only is the money in our politics preventing us from passing the legislation that would make a meaningful difference for our working families, but that we don't even need it to begin with, and we will be stronger for it if we lead by example.
You said to the Washington Post in an interview yesterday, I sincerely believe that getting money out of our politics is going to be the issue that unlocks everything else. Tell me a little more about that, because we spent a lot of time on the show today talking about Donald Trump and the amount of money he makes on these deals for himself and his family. Why do you believe this is as central as it is, given all the problems we've got today?
Well, first, let's talk about Medicare for All, right? I saw that the policy director for the National Nurses United spoke a few weeks ago about the concern that they're having for members of Congress that are co-sponsors of legislation like Medicare for All, while also taking campaign donations from the very health insurance companies that would be effectively legislated out of existence. So it calls into question what kind of relationship and what kind of motivation are these donations playing in the roles of our members of Congress. And at the end of the day, if you were taking money from the very interests and the very corporations that don't want to see this kind of legislation passing, what we're finding is that sometimes it's not an immediate quid pro quo that these donations are resulting in. Sometimes it's that a seat is just being kept warm and legislation is not being progressed and fought for it in a really meaningful way. And so when it comes to things like Medicare for all or universal child care, the fight against private equity when it comes to housing, all of these issues can be traced back to the fact that there's so much corporate money and so much special interest money to the point where they can get lobbyists in there and get a bill passed with a 70% chance of that passage, where an everyday working American with the support of 80% of the American electorate only has a 30% chance of getting a bill passed. That's not a democracy. That is an oligarchy. And if we have any chance of, beating back Trump, if we have any chance of taking care of the conditions that led to his rise in the first place, we have to address corruption in our government, and our party is poised to be able to lead by example.
So you basically got rid of your incumbent, who was also a leftist, but I believe she was more competent than this lady. You got rid of her for hopeism. You basically got rid of, it's like a woman who leaves her husband who works every day for a dude who's 50 years old and he's saying he's going to become a rapper. That's what they're doing. This is Obama 2.0. We're going to pass up great candidates for the one who just keeps promising us that they're going to work hard every day to implement a bunch of stuff that will never be implemented. And this guy's a shield on the 11th hour because he doesn't ask her a simple question. Universal health care. How are we going to pay for that? Then they make it more expensive because they say, well, universal child care too. And we need to get the corporate money out of politics. But we somehow need to still get the corporations to pay us taxes. It doesn't even make sense. It flounders on its face. She's one person. Everyone around her is taking corporate money. And you're right, Ms. Berry. She is on script. She is on script. But see, and then she said, well, we won by a 13% margin. She's not going to tell you I won by 10,000 votes. That just means I got a bunch of people to believe that I'm somehow going to get them free stuff.
I want to quote something that you said during a speech in mid-May, obviously before your victory, about the basics of your ideology. I want to dig into it a little bit with you. You said every single issue that I looked at where we thought there was a problem that was persisting, we already figured out the solution a long time ago. You solve homelessness by giving people housing. You solve hunger by giving people food. You solve healthcare by going to a single-payer system. Now, I'll just tell you my bias here. I grew up in Canada where, like every other developed country, I grew up in Canada where...
Now, listen, he's going to... So look at her ideas. You solve homelessness by giving people housing. So you solve homelessness when dope fiends is outside and want to be outside. They don't care about living inside, but they will take the keys to a freshly new apartment if you give it to them. And you don't want them outside, so you're not addressing what's really going on with them. You just give them a door. And that's solving homelessness. Oh, you solve hunger by giving people food. Who's hungry in America? Show me in America where someone is hungry and they can't walk 3 blocks and go get something to eat. Bro, I live by a grocery store. There are dudes who stand in front of the grocery store. Hey, can you give me some money so I can get some food? People say, I'm not going to give you no money, but just tell me what you want. I'll go in and get it for you. I'll see a bum walking away with 3 big ass bags of groceries where people then just bought them all this stuff. Hey, if you're hungry, we're Americans, will feed you. What we're not going to do is allocate billions of dollars to politicians so they could steal the majority of it and sprinkle a little bit, create a bunch of programs for their family members to get paid. And the same hungry people is out there. There's food banks and pantries all over America. There's no hunger problem in America. And then you solve healthcare by going to a single payer system. These people are just saying anything. And the dummies believe in it, run and go vote for them. But politicians have been saying this stuff for decades at this point. But just like we heard Carville and Al say, America cannot do universal health care. Now let's see. This guy he grew up in Canada where they have a single payer health system. And I'm thinking he's going to come at her over that issue.
Going to a single payer system. Now, I'll just tell you my bias here. I grew up in Canada where, like every other developed country, has universal health care. But tell me about this, because there are some who would paint you and other DSA members as radicals. You're trying to make the argument that this is common sense.
It is common sense, right? If you look at the data, if you look at the research, it is cheaper to house someone than to leave them homeless. It is cheaper to heal someone and give them treatment than it is to let them get sick and to deal with getting the last minute, excruciating treatment at the very end of their sickness. It is cheaper to give our kids the highest quality education and give them the opportunity to thrive with the best opportunities in their futures. All of these things not only pay for themselves, not only are pragmatic and economic, it's just also the right thing to do, right? We are embarking on the 250th anniversary of this nation's founding. And this is a promise that we all made to one another, right? We, the people, and our obligation to delivering on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for every single American in this country. That should include the basic necessities of housing, healthcare, nutritional food, public education, all of which are programs that we've already figured out how to get done. We already have the popular support among the voters across this country, but especially among the base of this party. What we don't have is the political will to get it done. And the case that I'm making is that we have to get the money out of our politics. We have to root out that corruption so we can get to the good work of governing and legislating and actually fighting for the working families of this country.
So primaries are about people challenging.
No, she never explained how she's going to do all this stuff. This guy didn't ask a single follow-up. Oh, Canada, like every other developed nation, has universal health care. What is universal health care? You just pay early. That's it. You're still paying. You're still paying. You pay early and you don't get to control how your health care works. Stupid. That's stupid. But she's going to talk this ideology talk. Oh, it's common sense. And it's cheaper to house a homeless person than to let them be homeless. No, it's not. It costs me nothing to let a bum run around on the street. But they got the talking points down to a T. But is this guy going to say, you know what? Why hasn't this worked yet in Democrat socialist run cities? Why isn't this working for Chicago? Why is this not working? Why is this not working for Katie Wilson in Seattle? Why is this not working for Zohran Mamdani? Why didn't this work for, what's that lady's name who was the mayor of San Francisco? I forgot her damn name. The black lady. Oh, London Keys. Why didn't this work for London Keys? Why isn't it working in Los Angeles for Karen Bass with the biggest homeless population on earth? No one's going to ask these questions. LA is the most liberal city in America. They get to try all the bad ideas in LA, and they have a bag, a huge amount of money to use. Why isn't it working? That's the only thing I'm going to ask. If it's this simple and it's easy and we've done it, why wasn't California, liberal governor, Democrat socialist governor, Democrat socialist mayors all over this state, radical liberal Congress, why aren't they able to even put a tiny dent in the homelessness problem? Just think about it like that. But if he was a real anchor, he would have asked these questions. He would have said, why is this going to work in Colorado when it's failed miserably in California, a state that is significantly richer than Colorado, significantly more woke than Colorado? Democrats control California 100%. They're liars. They're liars. They're telling you, vote for us and we're going to do something that we have never been able to do in California or New York or in any Democrat stronghold. It's all talk. It's all lies. It's all fluff. But guys, thank you for watching this. I went over my time. Damn, I wasn't supposed to do that. But thank y'all. I appreciate y'all being here. This lady is nuts. She's absolutely crazy. Just say no. No Democrat Socialists of America. Black folks, don't be politically homeless. Fall back on the common sense, conservative values that you started with, that got you this far. And don't let these people destroy the country that you built. Thank you so much for watching this. I appreciate everything you do for me in this channel. Till the next time, take care of yourselves. But most importantly, please take care of each other. Peace.